Imagine waking up cold and hungry, not in your own bed, but on a straw mat in a medieval orphanage. No family, no comfort, just endless rules, aching work, and prayers that barely keep hunger away. You're not a hero, not a lord, just a forgotten child, fighting for scraps and clinging to hope in a world that never looked your way. Want to know what survival really meant for thousands of lost children in the Dark Ages? Step inside these stone walls and find out. This is Refound Legacy. Hit subscribe and discover the real, raw stories history forgot. If you want this gripping experience for other lives in history, just send your favorite era or title my way. You're 5 years old, shivering in a damp stone alley as the bells of St. Agnes toll for sunrise. Medieval England, 1328. Your first memory? Not a mother's lullaby or the warmth of a father's arms, but the clang of the church doors shutting. Behind you and the scratch of straw on your bare legs, no one even bothered to ask your name. The monks just called you Mouse. Maybe it's because you're small. It's because you scurry, quiet as you can, hoping nobody notices. Orphanage life is a cage built out of prayers and hunger. The air always smells of boiled cabbage, tallow candles, and the sour temps of children's fear. You share a room with a dozen other lost souls, all coughing, all skin and bones. The oldest, a boy called Rook, says he can't remember his mother's face, only the rags she wrapped him in. Sister Agnes, the one who hands out supper, pinches cheeks to see who's getting feverish. God takes the sick ones quick, she mutters. And the youngest start to cry. Every morning, before the sun's climbed over the city wall, you line up in the refectory, clutching a chipped bowl. Gruel, watery and gray, slops into it if you're lucky. There's a crust of bread. Some days you snatch beetles from the cracks and hope no one's watching. Hunger gnaws at you, sharper than the winter wind that whistles through the broken panes. You dream of running of fields, of forests, of finding the parents who left you. But every time you step near the gate, the matron's switch cracks. The stone, God's house keeps you safe, she says. But you wonder safe from what? You'll learn quick. The world outside the wall is cruel, but inside, it's slow, grinding, endless. Work starts at dawn. Girls card wool and pick lice from each other's hair. Boys haul buckets of water up rickety stairs, scrub pots till there. Knuckles bleed, chop turnips with hands still too small for the knife. You try to keep quiet. The loud ones like Rook did, extra chores, or worse, a taste of the birch rod. The only kindness comes from a kitchen maid, Mary, who sometimes slips. You a scrap of cheese, whispering, "Don't let sister see." It tastes like hope. Nights are the hardest. Cold bites through your threadbare blanket, and every cough echoes in the dark. Some children whimper for their mothers. You don't remember yours anymore. You hold tight to a scrap of cloth you found. Behind the chapel blue, faded, maybe once a part of someone's dress. You tell yourself it's from home. When sickness comes, it sweeps fast. Fever grips the dormitory. The sisters mutter prayers, rub vinegar on hot skin, but mostly, you just wait. 2 boys vanish in a week, their cots left empty. You stare at those beds, terrified you'll be next. Still, you survive. Somehow by 10, you're tough as boiled leather. The rules are stamped into your bones. Speak only when spoken to. Never steal from the pantry. Work, pray, obey. You help the sisters spin wool for market. Sometimes, a kind-eyed priest brings you a honey cake or an apple, and the other children gather like sparrows. The priest's stories are the only bright spot, tales of saints, of far-off places, of miracles. You wonder if miracles ever find orphans? One day, a stranger comes to the orphanage, a woman with coins sewn into her sleeves and the sharp eyes of a merchant's wife. She walks the rows of children, asking names, inspecting hands. Strong back, clever fingers, she murmurs and points at you. The matron nods, tucks a purse into her belt, and says, "God's will." That night you pray for the first time, not for food, not for warmth, but for a family. The next morning, you're packed into a cart bound for the merchant's manor. The ride jostles your bones. You clutch your blue scrap, knuckles white. The manor is stone and timber, grander than anything you've ever seen, but it's not home. The merchant's wife is stern but fair. She puts you to work in the kitchens, peeling turnips, scrubbing floors, fetching firewood until your arms shake. It's better than the orphanage. In some ways, there's more food, fewer beatings, and the cook, old Nan, sometimes tells jokes that make you snort gruel out your nose. You learn quickly. Don't break dishes, never talk back, and always bow when the mistress passes. The merchant's children ignore you mostly, but the youngest, a girl with golden hair, leaves you an apple behind the well. For the first time, you taste something sweet and fresh, something that feels almost like hope. But freedom is an illusion. You're a servant now, not a child. Days blur into each other, seasons marked by mud on the floor and blisters on your hands. At night, you stare out a tiny attic window, the village lights flickering like distant stars, and wonder if your parents ever think of you. Some days, you almost hope they're deadites easier than believing they abandoned you. Your body grows stronger, your heart harder. When plague sweeps through the village, you help nurse the sick, clean the dead, scrub walls with vinegar until your arms ache. You see fear in the merchant's eyes, fear that death will choose his family next. You're told to pray harder, to keep working, to trust in God's mercy. But you know mercy doesn't visit the likes of you. Years pass. You're 16 then. 18. Old Nan dies, and you dig her grave yourself, hands blistered and raw. The merchant's wife grows frail, and you care for her as best you can. As she passes, the master sells the manor, dismisses all but a handful of staff. You're on your own again, wandering village to village, trading work for a meal and a place by the hearth. Sometimes you meet other orphans, grown now like you, share stories, bread the names of those who didn't make it. You laugh at memories that used to make you cry. You wonder what happened to Rook, to Mary, to the golden-haired girl who left you apples. You wonder if anyone remembers Mouse, the quiet child from St. Agnes. At the end, you're a survivor, not a hero, not a villain. It's just one of countless lost children who slipped through the cracks of history, piecing together a life from scraps and stolen moments. You realize your stolen childhood made you fierce, stubborn, able to endure anything, even the coldest winter, even the emptiest belly. In the darkness of your small rented room, you finger the faded blue scrap of cloth, the last thread of memory, and whisper a prayer not to the saints, but to the children left behind, the ones still waiting for a miracle. Because if you survived, maybe they can too. Click for more forgotten stories like yours. Imagine if this was your life.